So, reflecting on my time in Germany, I think God had two main purposes for that time in my life. One, I think God is going to use the German language in my life again. Maybe not to minister to Germans per se, but I feel a strong desire to spend a lot of time in Israel. And I know that there is a large Yiddish community there. And if you don't know what Yiddish is basically German, but written with the Hebrew alphabet instead of the alphabet that we use today. I don't even know what they call it. I think they call it the Arabic, but that doesn't make any sense either. But the letters, not the alphabet that we use today, not the alphabet that most of the Western world uses, but the Yiddish language adopted when the Germans went back. They adopted the Hebrew alphabet, but the language is pretty much the same. It's kind of like British English to American English or South African English, but it is the same general language. They of course adopted some Hebrew words into their language, but that made a lot of sense. So reflecting on this, my time in Germany, when I got home, and looking back, I believe that's one of the main reasons why God sent me over there. But also to be able to associate and identify with people that are foreigners in a foreign land. You know, Scripture talks about that a lot, being a foreigner in a foreign land. And, the story of Joseph, being a foreigner in a foreign land. There's a lot of stories of the Israelites going back and forth, and just what that was like to be surrounded by a different culture, being surrounded by a different language, being surrounded by different principles, different customs, different ideologies, and that's important to know that the world is much different than it is here in America. Americans, we take things in a lot of ways for granted. We kind of grow up in this mindset that the rest of the world is the same, and it's really not. We're the ones that are different. The rest of the world is the same, but not the same to us, the same to them. And in America, things are just different, especially in the part of America that we live here in, Mississippi. So those are the two main things that God wanted me to take away from that experience. And that moves me into my senior year of high school. Just to fast forward, my mom made me go back to SBC and graduate with my high school class. I'd already taken the ACT in 10th grade and scored high enough to go to college. So it wasn't that I needed to go back to finish my senior year. My mom just wanted me to have that memory of graduating with people that, down the road may have some connections with, because you kind of are connected to the people of your senior class in some way. And, that was all fine and well. Looking back, it didn't hurt me. So I did it because my mom wanted me to. And then I went off to Mississippi State to go to college. And so I spent a few weeks at home, literally, whatever that is, 10 months, 11 months at home. And then I took off again to go to college and went to Mississippi State. And I went to Mississippi State. I chose Mississippi State because several reasons. One, at the time, my dad would not allow me to go to out-of-state tuition. He wanted me to go to Ole Miss. I did go and talk to the professors at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss was not the right fit for me. In fact, when I went to the language department, because for some reason I had this dream that I wanted to be in the CIA, and I thought that what I should do is go to college, get my bachelor's degree, and then join the Marine Corps and do embassy duty, try to get into embassy duty so I could learn other cultures, and then come back and do my master's and kind of sign up with the CIA. That was kind of like what I wanted to do. So by the time I was, my senior year in high school, I did study a lot of languages. I got dictionaries from every Germanic and Romanic language. I had a bookshelf full of dictionaries and verb books, how the language evolved. And I was really trying to learn language. How language evolved. How did we come to speak what we speak today? How did, different families divide and how the language split? Because, language obviously split when God divided the tongues at the Tower of Babel, but it also continued to split from family to family. The Germans and the Dutch and the English, in the Middle Ages in 1000 AD, their languages were very, very similar. As a matter of fact, you can go back and say, probably 65% of the language, the core of the language was the sentence structure was the same, the way that they conjugated verbs was the same, and then they started to separate modern Middle English and then modern English. Then you have these major divisions of the language. And that's just in the past 1,000 years. We're not talking about, from the Tower of Babel. So, when God divided the tongues, if you go back and look at this, God divided the tongues into probably, and I'm just guessing, but God loves the number 7. So if I was to make a guess on how many languages there was the day after God divided tongues, it probably went from 1 to 7. And from there, it divided again as time went on. If you look at, for example, skin colors, there's about 7 different major skin colors. White, black, brown, yellow, red. But there's really, 7 primary skin colors. There's 7 primary colors. There's 7 notes on an instrument. God likes this number 7. And so there was probably 7 languages when God divided it. And how that all split, I was fascinated with this. This was, I was extremely fascinated with how God did it. And so my first journey with God was trying to learn how language evolved. And, I was fascinated by, like, for example, the Icelandic language, which actually hasn't really evolved from Old Norse. In fact, if you go and talk to people from Iceland, and I met a lot of people from Iceland in Germany, they would tell you that they could still read Old Norse just like it was modern day Icelandic, with not much. I mean, there were some different words. They used different words, of course, but for the most part, it was kind of the same. And but other languages were adapting words from different cultures. For example, let's just say the word TV. When TV was invented, television, every culture, for the most part, used the word television instead of creating their own word for it. Same thing with microwave. Microwave is probably one of those words that's the same in almost every language because that was a new invention. And so when I went to college, my thought process is that I would study languages, study as many as I could, and eventually go into the CIA and be a spy or something along those lines. I didn't know what I wanted to be. But God obviously, had his own plan. And at first I wanted, I got accepted into, obviously I got accepted everywhere I applied. So I went to talk to Ole Miss. And Ole Miss said, okay, well, what you probably need to do is just get a bachelor's in business and write a paper for German and French and some other languages. And they said, we'll just give you you'll get your credits by writing this paper. So literally I could, according to them at the time, this was 1997, around that time when I graduated high school. They said that I could write a paper in German and French and have a degree in German and French based off of the outcome of what my letter was. And it wasn't just a letter. It was, probably a 20-page paper. It wasn't just one page. And it was just my ability, their conclusion that I knew the language. And I was like, that sounds kind of weird. So then I went and applied at the University of Alabama, thinking my dad wouldn't mind me going across the border. He did. He didn't want me to go across the border. And I got accepted into the German house as a freshman. This was graduate students who were studying German. They all got to live in an apartment together and quote unquote speak the language together. So I was going to be a freshman in a class in an apartment with a bunch of graduate students. My dad said no. So I chose to go to Mississippi State because when I went and interviewed with them, the professors of the college, they said, okay, look, here's the deal. To get a degree in German, you have to have so many credits. And since you're obviously way past German 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, we're going to start you off at the graduate level. So you still got to take the number of credits you have to take, but you're going to get to start with the graduate students. So I started off as a freshman in college taking graduate level French and German. I started off as a freshman. I was elected to be in charge of the German club, the French club, and and I was doing my thing. I was going to college like a lot of kids do, and college is an interesting place. Obviously, academics. I was playing music with a bunch of folks. We would all sit around and play guitars and form bands and all these things on the when we had time. And I will tell you that the devil was looking for opportunities to attack anybody and everybody. And as much as I want to say I was listening to God, I was listening to the world more than I was listening to God. And I was doing a lot of stupid things. And eventually the stupid things caught up with me. And, I ended up, falling victim to the drug wars of America, is the way I like to say it. I was charged with the sale of cocaine to somebody. I gave some kid 0.27 grams of cocaine. Now, that's less cocaine that's in a Swedenlo package. And I got one right here. Less cocaine than what is in here. I gave to some kid. And the court system in Starkville, Mississippi was running a racket. And because I did this, I was sentenced to 9 years in prison in the Mississippi Department of Corrections. They suspended, technically I was sentenced to a lot more than that. I was sentenced to 5 years probation on top of 9 years. And They suspended 5 years. I had to serve 4. Ended up getting out, and we'll talk about this in another video. But that was really kind of a, I guess, a wake-up call in my life.